stream, so this is going to be an exciting one with Nico Gis bringing the turbo hands.
This is down and dirty dodgeball. We're talking about two very fast, aggressive decks that are going to be going head-to-head, maybe without their hands.
What do I do with my hands?
You're going to have to headbutt them. There's nothing left.
What? Okay.
Amp you very little.
This is fine. This is fine because it's on the bottom here. There's opportunity, but I mean, you don't really have much to peak accelerate to if you don't have my hands.
Oh, there is one
Where's my hands?
One final hands.
Thank goodness.
For Nico.
But is Nico going to be able to find it?
He's got one tied behind his back, but he's got an opportunity.
Let's talk about what Nico is going to be facing up against here in Allan Zoo.
Yeah, Allan is a competitor who finished 33rd at EUIC with Qian Pao this year, so would love to continue to build on that performance. Has that opportunity now, as you see, playing the Lost Zone deck with plenty of interesting features, similar to that list Dean Nizam showed off in the top 4 of Indianapolis, but we are underway.
Yes, here we go. Kicking off our Swiss round 15. Allan Shu versus Nico Gist. We're jumping into things with a Buddy Poffin. That is a very powerful card that we've debated here on the stream already. And Allan is definitely going to be happy to start there. On that starting turn with the Buddy Poffin, let's talk about this matchup, the intricacies of what we're going to be seeing here from Allan going against the very powerful and very well-known Turbo Hands deck.
Yeah, I will. The issue with Turbo Hands has been that it's very aggressive and sometimes to a fault. You run out of gas within 2 to 3 turns.
Yeah.
You're so focused on throwing energies around and taking big aggressive knockouts against lower hit point Pokemon in the beginning of the game that eventually you get to this point where you only have 2 prize cards remaining and you're hoping to pick up the pieces with cards like Boss's Orders, and you're not able to always find those. It comes down to Mew using Restart and all these other top decks, and that is where Allan is going to shine. You have that opportunity with flower selecting to build up on a strategy, start to think about how you lay out the prize map, and maybe you can surprise your opponent with some big hit point Pokemon taking one-hit knockouts. Yeah,
that's why these Lost Box decks just do not like to see the disruption of getting cards just removed from their deck or from their hand, but that's not what is going to be the case here. We have Nico, who's playing a deck that's very aggressive in the beginning stages of these matches, versus Allan, who is working up to that late game strategy and taking things home in the long run with this Lost Box deck. So we're going to have to see who on this spectrum is able to bring out a win. Let us know in chat as well, which one of these strategies are you rooting for, because they are very different here. And I'll tell you what, Allan has got a pretty solid setup here, Allan over here on the left side, and now we're over to Nico to have to match that aggressive start there.
Yeah, one unfortunate piece there for Allan. No switching card. No way to move that Comfey into the active spot. This Roaring Moon is stuck, so no cards accelerated into the Lost Zone. Means that Mirage Gate is just another step away from being activated. Leads to a very difficult next turn. Meanwhile, for Nico, this is a pretty classic start. That Techno Radar is going to allow to search for some additional help here. Not only do you have the Iron Crown, giving that additional attacking power, but you have Iron Hands to accelerate and potentially clean up a knockout that this Miraidon starts to chip away at.
Yeah, this is awesome to see. You know, 2 Iron Hands were in the prize cards, but that Techno Radar is going to say, no, it's all right, I'll get my Pokemon out. And that is really the goal here for Nico, to get these crowns down that are going to be adding to that damage output for this game, but also to make sure that there's an energy to put onto this Miraidon and be able to accelerate those energy with the peak acceleration, as well as do some damage as well, get that all onto the field. And you know, that peak acceleration is boosted by those Iron Crowns that we see on the bench as well, and it's pretty wild. I think Miraidon, this particular Dragon Miraidon, is probably one of my favorite cards.
Yeah, the fact that it is a future Pokemon means that you can accelerate and you get the damage amplification of Iron Crown too. So currently, we see this Pokemon is going to be attacking for 80 damage and accelerating 2 basic energies to start to charge up the Iron Hands EX.
Yeah.
Mew is found off of the Arven Nest Ball. We see that along with the Energy Capsule, and this means that you're going to have a very low hand size, but this is where the text shows some of its faults. You've played out everything that you have. If you see 3 bad cards off of Restart, you have to go home and cry.
Not always,
I
okay,
will.
Kyle,
I'll
not
cry for 'em.
always. Listen, you can get into some sticky situations here, but as long as you got the energy and the attackers, you can get through, all right? I've been in some tough spots here, but let's see what Nico was able to get.
Ooh.
Oh, very nice, an electric generator. Here, let's see if we can hit an energy.
The psychic energy is the most disrespectful thing to see off the generator.
Yeah, that is tough. There's a single psychic energy in this deck, and then there's 14 electric.
Look, Nico immediately grabs the psychic energy and says, "You will never do that to me again. You stay on the Iron Hands where you belong."
Oh my goodness.
It is a tech inclusion, you see. Obviously, having access to the Sparking Strike of the Miraidon can be great as a one-hit knockout from a single prize Pokemon, but you've done the damage already. 100 damage to Roaring Moon.
Yes.
And you're potentially ready to go. Was this a pass of the turn? We're already on the next turn?
I think so, because I think Allan just like threw the hand down, and I think that was a pass. I don't know what's going on in that hand, but it's not good, Kyle. That is for sure.
There are multiple generators ready to roll. The research was one of those cards that the Mew allows us to find. And double energies found here. Amp you very much ready to roll. That is three prize cards that you have access to immediately here.
That is absolutely incredible. We whiffed the first generator, and that is no issues here for Nico. We had the acceleration there, of course, from that Miraidon before. That future booster energy capsule, again, one of the most important cards here in these future box decks as well. It allows it to free retreat as well as boost its damage output. And now we have the Iron Hands EX that's already been charged up here to take that knockout, and that's 3 prize cards. That is the bread and butter here of these future decks.
Yep.
That Iron Hands, amp you very much, allows you to take an extra prize card off of any Pokemon that you knock out.
Now, typically, this is a spot where you would worry. You'd assume that your opponent could work in maybe one of those Pokemon like the Hoopa EX. It's a great responder to an Iron Hands EX. It's able to take that knockout due to the fact that there's so many energy in play right now. One big problem. That's the first card into the Lost Zone right here. We are on turn 3, and nothing has been accomplished. Culver's Experiment is going to try to help in this spot, but it's really going to be on the back of a multiple switching effects and a Lost Vacuum if you want to get to Mirage Gate this turn.
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, we saw the Roaring Moon go down, which was huge.
This hand was good. Hoopa is found off the Nest Ball. The other 2 cards from the Culver's Experiment, a Switch card and a Lost Vacuum. Everything you want to see for Allan, but he has to chain this together. See the Switch card into the Comfey. That's 1 more card. You do still need to find a card on your side for the Lost Vacuum if you want to make this work.
Yeah, exactly. You have to.
Oh, we're not getting there.
And we were so close, Kyle, to seeing Allan maybe potentially be able to save that, but Nico is gonna come out of the gates. There was a hand tied behind the back, but not for long, because we had an amp you very much right out of the gate.
That was
there
an
for
amp
Nico.
you just enough.
Yeah,
And it got the job done in 7 minutes. What a way to start things off here. We are living in the future, and Nico is 1 game away from punching that ticket into the top 8 here in LA. What a way to do it.
Yeah, I love to see that. I know there's a... Oh, well, let's jump into this first before we discuss further. But, you know, this is our first game, and I think this was the big momentum swing here. Nico taking 3 prize cards there off that Roaring Moon. Allan just not being able to pick up the pieces in a way that would have been good enough to keep going from here. And that's just heartbreaking to see.
Even if the Miracle Turn was performed, Allan brings up this Hoopa. Nico's hand was completely fine at that spot. Had found an Iron Hands, had another electric generator in her hand, could have potentially come up with a knockout on that Hoopa that turn. Nico was cooking, and I'm sure that he's hoping to see a very similar hand this time around.
Cooking with an electric stove this time, huh?
There we go. Just stay away from the bathtub, as I've learned.
Well, look at these prize cards here now, Kyle. 14 electric energy, and 3 of them are in the prize cards, as well as a heavy baton and the prime catcher and a boss. So both gusting effects there for Nico, and that heavy baton's always nice to have, too.
Bits and pieces you see there, but you hinted at it. Those 3 energies in the prize cards can lead to missing on some of these generators. Opening generator misses. This is double hands attached pass.
Wow, that is definitely not what you want to see. You want to see the same thing Nico was able to do last turn, to have that Miraidon ready to go, get some damage out, accelerating some energy, and having a stable position from there. But now we just see 2 Iron Hands from Nico, and that's about it. Hopefully the turn after can be helped a bit by that R15 that we see that's in the hand. As far as Allan's side of the field now, starting with a Radiant Greninja. So if we do have access to some energy, we could see some draw support for the hands potentially, but even more important, that Colress's Experiment is what we were lacking before. That's going to start stacking those cards up into the Lost Zone for Allan here to hopefully get a little bit of a better start. There was no lack of Pokemon in the last turn, but there was lack of flower selecting.
Well, you have the flower selecting this time around. Buddy Poffin is the one card that's missing from this equation.
Yeah.
And this leads to a slower start, even though it's much better than last time. The Colress Experiment is able to help out. You're going to just slowly charge up. And you want to protect that Comfey, which is important to note that although the hand from Nico wasn't strong, you're just a research away from your Comfey being knocked out from Miraidon.
Yeah, there was a lot of Pokemon, I think, for Allan in the prize cards as well. I believe I saw like 3 different Pokemon there. So hopefully we can get access to those at some point here. For Nico, though, three Lost Zone cards on Allan's side, so Nico's going to have to match that aggression here. We do see a heavy baton. There's another in the list here besides that one in the prize cards, which is very nice to see, so that you can kind of retain some of these energy in the game so far. And of course, that Techno Radar, so important here for this deck. This is going to allow Nico to get out these other future Pokemon onto the field.
Yeah, that future booster energy capsule is also going to be an important piece to moving these Pokemon around. You have such high hit points that you're, retreat costs that you're working with, that moving these Pokemon is going to be vital to how you continue to go about these turns. This is a very slow start that we're seeing from Nico. Unfortunate to see the hands in the active position. And just going with the R15 just seems like a pretty slow approach, but you want to make the most out of your resources in this opening turn.
Yeah, you kind of have to just start establishing your board, because if you have no board, then what are you working with, you know? So making sure that you're always getting this Miraidon out to help your board state, further it more, and also get some damage out there, super important. We did see, of course, the Techno Radar, and the discard for it was the Professor's Research. The R15 had already been played for the turn, but now that's a supporter down for Nico. I'm not sure what else is actually in the hand to start off the next turn that we're going to see, but at least we're going to have that peak acceleration. It's going to be 60 damage going down onto that Roaring Moon here in the active position. We're back over to Allan's side. Let's see if we can start stacking up that Lost Zone a bit more and unlocking the potential of the rest of this deck.
Ooh, the one of Lost Vacuum is found with the Colress Experiment. Not only do you have the ability to add an additional card into your Lost Zone, but you could remove a card like that Heavy Baton. It's the big reason why Iron Hands in this deck is able to continue to chain attacks. If you avoid that, then maybe your opponent has to play a slower turn, attack with a Miraidon once more, and that's the kind of time that you're going to need in this spot.
Yeah, that is huge there. If that heavy baton goes down, the other is stuck in the prize cards. Unfortunately for Nico, having 2 in the list. As well as that switch card, that's a basic Pokemon there. So we do see some healing. It's only going to be 30 damage now on that Roaring Moon that's now on the bench here. As well as that Comfey, activating another flower selecting. And we're back into the deck after that Artisan has come down from Allan's side of the field.
And obviously, with the ability to reach for 7 cards in the Lost Zone at this point, you start to wonder who is going to take the knockouts at this point of the game. You need multiple Mirage Gate if it's going to be an early aggressive Iron Hands. If you want to incorporate the Radiant Greninja to chip away at some of those Iron Hands that you see over here. Maybe you set them up for a double amp you very much 6 prize swing in 2 turns.
Yeah, that would be brutal indeed. There's definitely options there that we're gonna have here. We'll have to see what Allan chooses to do with the rest of this turn here, but definitely making sure to manage all the resources appropriately, keeping track of everything here. So Can you imagine how much the art is on, how much better it would be if it was just any Pokemon without a rule box?
Oh, yeah, it would almost be an auto-inclusion and everything at that point.
Instead of just a basic?
You're just sneaking crowns on every turn, plus 20, here we go.
Oh, yeah, that would be epic indeed.
Tough call here. It's some of your main firepower and that Raikou that could potentially help out.
Ooh.
If your opponent does overcommit, play down multiple crowns, but looks like your opponent is playing it pretty wisely, keeps that thin bench, just enough damage to work in the Ampu very much knockouts.
Yeah.
It's not going to be something to worry about here. Instead, let's get aggressive.
Let's get aggressive indeed. And one way to do that is one of your favorite item cards, Kyle, the Mirage Gate. Coming out of the gates here for Allan. Now we're up to 7 in the Lost Zone. That's going to allow Allan to draw out 2 different types of basic energy and attach them to the field. It's going to be that water and that dark that's going straight down onto that Roaring Moon EX. Huge part of this deck.
And looks like Palpad is not just for the control decks, as we may have hinted at a while ago, Mr. Pablo. You can use that in these aggressive builds too. And double Culver's Experiment added back into the deck. That's going to leave plenty of opportunities for Allan to find the reach. And this is a very early knockout here on the crown.
Yeah, that is early indeed. We saw that beautiful ace spec, only one that you can play in your entire deck, and it's going to come out there for Allan to take those 2 prize cards off of one of those Iron Crown. So that is going to lead to Allan taking the lead in this game 2 here. Nico's trying to disrupt here a little bit because that was a giant hand that we saw that Allan was accumulating of all those resources. And now it's an Iono. So Allan is only going to get 4 cards to the hand, whereas Nico is going to have 6 to work with here.
Yeah, and if you see Iono in a list that's this aggressive, you start to wonder, what's the point? You're using all of these additional resources to take the prize cards in the beginning. You're going up 2 or 3 prize cards. Why do you want to use Iono? But it's so valuable to disrupt decks like this. The decks that are building up 11-card hands, or the control lists that just have so many resources. If you can just limit them to 6, 4, whatever it may be, it doesn't matter what you're working with. If you have access to that Mew, you can restart, keep building, and you're just playing theme deck mode. Just throw your energies in there and get in there.
Yeah, get in there, get aggressive. It is, you know, a bit of a linear strategy that we see from this deck. You just got to know exactly what you're supposed to be doing and work with the cards that you have in your hand at that moment in time. And Iono is definitely one of those cards that helps out in this specific matchup to disrupt those giant hands that Lost Box decks can accumulate. Then we're going to see this Iron Hands with the Heavy Baton come up here into the active position and take the knockout. So adding in that aggression after the disruption, we'll see where that leaves Allan after this going into this turn. And of course, 2 prize cards because of that Ampu very much. That's what we're trying to see, this prize mapping. 2-2-2, and Nico has a 2-0 victory here in this game potentially.
Yeah, that was the arm press to take the knockout on Roaring Moon, as he didn't exactly have the reach just yet, but with the double crown was able to reach 200 with the Heavy Baton attached. But it is
a good
idea that after this Pokemon is knocked out, you have that Heavy Baton, you can move the energies to the Iron Hands and then start using Ampu very much with that one against some of these lower hit point Pokemon.
I was going to say, Kyle, what am I saying? There's not even an energy there. There's not enough energy. Yes, now we're going through Allan's turn here, starting things off after that knockout, of course. Hoopa is going to come down as well as that Mew EX.
Hoopa is such a great inclusion. The access to the dark energies that you already have because of Roaring Moon, the fact that you can target down with some of that fighting weakness against Pokemon like that Arceus in many builds that you're working against, and Energy Crush just blows up every time you see so many energies on the other side of the board, just like this deck does. Only 2 energies required to Energy Crush. You have to think Allan will have access to that.
Yeah, that Hoopa is awesome to see in this list, and Allan is just going to churn through this turn here. Now we're up to 9 cards there in the Lost Zone. It's followed by a Super Rod. One of those, we're going fishing with the grandpa here, Kyle.
Wow, what a fun turn. You know what would be great? If you had a Mirage Gate.
Oh, yeah, true. Yes, it's just going to be that super odd there for Allan, shuffling those energy back into the deck.
Yeah, there's not much needed from this turn. The prize exchange where we're at right now certainly is favored towards Allan. And you can see that with the Hoopa to take the knockout here, only 2 prize cards remain. Likely has to be the Iron Hands EX as the responder.
Yep.
And if you can chain together that Roaring Moon one more time, use a Super Rod for that Hoopa, whatever it may be, then Allan will be taking this to a Game 3.
Yeah, you love to see it. I mean, like, it's going slower pace, but I feel like the aggression is still there for both of these decks back and forth. And you can see that with options that you have there. Allan making sure to just do everything as far as the checklist goes for this Lost Box deck.
He's slowing down. I don't see Mirage Gate in hand. They're switching cards in hand, but all of the flower selectings have been used. This is a pass of the turn with a Comfey active? You have to switch out of there at this point. You're just going to bring up as many hit points as you can and hope to not walk right into Amp You Very Much for 3 prize cards.
Oh,
One
no.
more crown is the knockout against the Hoopa with arm press.
Wait, do we have it, though?
1 was knocked out. You have access
Yeah.
to 4. So just a Techno Radar, whatever it may be, would help you get there.
Yeah, there's not one in the prize cards.
It's not there, but the Prime Catcher is, and Mew will be targeted at this point. No reason to retreat just yet.
Wow.
But the cards aren't there to use your own Mew for a restart. Arm press is the play because the energy was attached to the back Iron Hands.
Oh my god.
That's a big miss on multiple prize cards. But I guess you couldn't anyways with the heavy baton.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, everything's just a little bit off in this game, but it's just enough for Nico. The heavy baton is still there. The energies should go to the Iron Hands, and you just need a boss's orders to close out.
Yeah, it was just the Prime Catcher with of course, the switch with that booster capsule with that free retreats, and that's just going to be the knockout there on that Mew EX. That's going to be 2 additional prize cards there for Nico. Now, Allan, it just feels so bad because it feels like we're just missing a little bit for both these players on both accounts, but it's coming down to the wire here now. Nico only 2 prize cards left to take. Allan starting off with this Chorus's experiment.
There was nothing in the top 5 there. You see the top deck of the turn was the Pokestop, which potentially could have found a card like that Mirage Gate. Where are they? 0.
Well, one's in the prize cards.
Right, so there's 1 in the prize cards. None of them have been played into the Lost Zone, and we've only seen, what, maybe 1 played so far?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's 1.
Hiding in the last 12 cards of the deck right here. It's so unfortunate for Allan to not see these resources. And he's just got to bank on the most hit points in this spot right here because you can't send up a single prizer into Amp You Very Much.
No, yeah, I mean, yeah, then you just lose pretty much at that point. So Allan's got to do everything here to find. It's just going to be a nest ball, double nest ball, really. One's going to go to the Lost Zone, 1 to the hands, and that's just going to be the rescue board retreat into another flower selecting.
Where are they? An energy is found. Radiant Greninja tries to find this.
No Lost Zones here, just a quick draw to. No! What, Kyle?
All the energy, none of the gates.
What? There's no way. Like, we have to be. No, there's only 1 played, 1 in the prize. We're spinning.
Pokemon Go, don't fail us now. It is the Mirage Gate. But how many energies have been missed here? I suppose you have the Super Rod to refill.
Yeah, Nico's looking at the deck there, spreading out the 3 cards that are left in deck on Allan's side. Incredible. I mean, I cannot believe we had to go through that much when this deck sees so many cards. And look at the amount that are in the Lost Zone, never to be retrieved again. That is just so much of the deck gone here. And your favorite card is coming back out, Kyle. Hey, it's pretty important in this circumstance, okay?
Thanks, Grandpa.
Yeah, that's super odd. Gonna put those energy and, of course, that Roaring Moon back into the deck to be sought back out by that nest ball immediately. And here comes the energy.
Yep, this is the most hit points you can put in the active spot at this point, 230. You have the energies for the Roaring Moon to attack, and with the Pokestop in there, Frenzied Gouging could attack for 220 damage. There's an issue. Iron Hand says 230. So it's going to have to be the counter catcher on the crown start to reduce some of the damage that could potentially be seen. But it's Boss's Orders. That's the main card you have to be worried about from Nico's side.
Yes.
He's holding on to 5 cards, and if that's there, Amp You Very Much is just ready to go.
Yeah, that is a tough position to be in, but that's unfortunately where Allan has just been left here in this matchup. Gonna gust up that Iron Crown as we discussed, because that's what you can knock out here and take 2 additional prize cards. But then, what is Nico gonna be able to do on this turn? What do you see in the hand, Kyle?
One of those gym leader guys.
Nothing to see here.
You know, just a free ticket to the top 8 of a regional championship.
Goodness.
No big deal. Allan has already played a supporter for the turn. Just thinking of every last option, but this is it. You frenzy gouging, you remove the Pokestop, and you just hope to not see it. But we know what's waiting on the other side. Nico has the energy. He's got the Boss's Orders, and that is Amp You Very Much to send Nico into the top 8.
Incredible to see Nico just going into our top 8 here with Turbo Iron Hands. And it was turbo, indeed. I mean, cards were flying. That first game was so dominant here from Nico, and it was equally as dominant here in the second game. A little bit more close there, but still able to close things out here. Finding that Boss's Orders right, well, actually, it was just in hand already. Getting that energy attachment and knocking a Lost Box out of contention for that top 8. But hey, now we're seeing a future deck in our top 8, Kyle.
Yeah, it's going to be making its way into the top 8, and that's exciting to see. It's a wild one, as you can only imagine what that looks like up against the Lightning Week deck of Lugia that's going to be sitting at the top 2 pieces there. There's some control sprinkled in there, which can be pretty terrifying, as that crown can get stuck in the active spot so often.
Yeah.
Oh, some polarizing matchups, certainly, but this is one of those. You see the aggression paying off there. Nico, Amp You Very Much, 3 prize cards immediately. And it's all because Allan did not have the switching cards to go along.
I know, that was tough.
And in this game, Allan found all of the switching cards, but nothing to follow back after this Roaring Moon was knocked out. All it took was that arm press here, and then Allan was deep in the blender trying to find any answer. But without Mirage Gate, your deck doesn't work.
Yeah, that is a pretty big factor of the deck, that is for sure, Kyle, and it just could not be found. If we had found those Mirage Gates, I feel like Allan would have been sitting in a much better position here against Nico, but Nico just had all the cards. I mean, we saw the disruption there, and then right at the end, that Boss's Orders was exactly what Nico needed to get into our top 8 here with Turbo Iron Hands, the future deck, making its way into top 8 and hoping to hit some Lugia.
Yeah, I mean, if Allan finds the Mirage Gate that turn with the Hoopa, we're in game 3.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
No question about it. It
do?
plays out that way. But the future was seen. Amp You Very Much is the way, and it's going to make its way into the top 8 now.
We gotta do it.
Who had that caster prediction?
Stop,
You
Kyle.
already know.
You predict it, but you don't even support it, Kyle. Come on.
What if it just runs into Lugia, and then into Lugia?
Yeah.
And then Control gets second. We'll take it.
Yeah, that's where it gets kind of awkward here, because it's really going to come down to what are the matchups going into this top 8. You know, not just the decks we're discussing, but that's a big factor. What do you go against, and who is knocked out for which position? And then what's going to make it into our finals? And hopefully it's actually going to be a pretty even matchup, so we see some awesome gameplay.
Yep.
Hopefully it's not too one-sided for the finals.
I mean, it's the next time they're going to see us as well. The next 2 rounds will be casted by Heggy and Tablemon. They'll have that top 8 and that top 4. It's going to be very exciting to see which decks make it into the top 8, as we're still wrapping up round 15 here.
Yep.
And then, I mean, it is, I took a look. Lugia, Control, and then we have, I believe, a Lost Zone Giratina that was able to work its way in.
Okay.
Now we have the Future Box, and then a little bit of a mystery down at the bottom, as a couple games are still going on, but could have potentially